Luke, Brian, which one of you guys wants to go first so we can get this party started?
I guess I can go first. And
Okay.
kind of in our discussions, we each selected three shows that we wanted to recommend here. I have an oldie but a goodie. I have a new one that probably everybody's heard of but might not have seen. And then I have one that's kind of on the back burner, had horrible marketing. So I would be surprised if either of you had seen it, and most people probably haven't heard of it. But I think I'm going to start with my oldie because I love it. I rewatched it after about 10 years. I forget when it originally aired, but it is the original Teen Titans cartoon from Cartoon
Okay.
Network. This show is a banger, people. I just love all five of the characters, all five of the voice actors absolutely crushed it. And back in the day, when streaming wasn't a thing, we would have to go on TV, check the channel guide, see what was on, and whenever I saw Teen Titans, I would get so excited and would just settle in for the next 20 minutes. But being able to binge this just like straight 10 episodes at a time, like just crush a season in a day, has really given me a better appreciation for it. I cannot believe that a show this good was like wasted on us as children.
Hmm.
It's fantastic, honestly. It's currently streaming on like HBO Max. I'm really enjoying the hell out of it.
How
Yeah.
many seasons?
I believe it's 5 seasons, actually, like 10
Okay.
episodes per season.
So I actually just got done rewatching or watching for the first time the new DC movies that have been coming out through the 2010s, and it's the DC AMU. It's like the Universe 52, and the Teen
Mhm.
Titans come in about halfway through, and they are some of my favorite ensemble casts. Like I think Raven is one of my favorite DC characters of all time, and I
Oh yeah.
I totally agree with you, Brian. Like Teen Titans was ahead of its time, and even now you can go back and watch any episode. It's amazing. So that's a great recommendation. Totally agree with you there. So.
It was kind of an American cartoon that had the feel of an anime, that kind of had those like wacky faces to convey
Mhm.
like some sort of like crazy emotion for them. And they just did a lot. Excuse me. They just had a lot of elements that I love from anime and just put it towards these Teen Titan characters. It's giving me such a better appreciation for the character of Robin, who I always thought was a little bit cheesy and corny, but
Yeah.
like one, the character design for Robin and Teen Titans. Well, honestly, all five of them. I don't think there's a better character design out there for Cyborg, Raven, Starfire. Kind of looks like a cheerleader, so I'll kind of sweep that one under the rug. But Robin is just a straight badass. Slade is a great villain to Robin. It was just such a home run. And looking at the reviews, Rotten Tomato, it's sitting at 92%, IMDb 7.9. Those are
Mhm.
phenomenal ratings for anything animated. So it just completely still holds up. I would highly recommend anybody to go back and revisit it, as whether you've never seen it before or it's been 10 years since you've picked it up. Also, one of the greatest theme songs of
Oh
all
yeah.
time.
Oh yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
only 10 years old?
Could be pushing 20 years old at this point.
Yeah, I
I
would
feel
say
like
I
that.
would say
Yeah,
push
I
20.
don't know.
I
I'm
don't I
just
mean
saying 10 years.
I don't know, but I remember watching in my teens, so that means it definitely has to be pushing 20 or at least 15. And Nostalgia City, just even thinking about it, I remember not necessarily like you said, binging from beginning to end because back in the day you're just it's on Cartoon Network. There it is. Boom.
Hmm.
Let's but
Mhm.
you can watch any single episode and be entertained and enjoy it. And eventually you start to piece them together like back in the day. Really, it was so
Yeah.
hard to get everything from beginning to end. Dragon Ball Z was the worst with that, just trying to make sure you're keeping up with every single episode in a row. Because there you go, Luke, you got
Luke's
your Dragon
repping.
Ball
Yeah.
Z. Just so many episodes, and they play at random times. But yeah, any episode, I loved it, and I might have to re-binge just because you're saying that, Brian. Great first pick.
All right, so I'll go next here. I'm gonna pick something that's come out recently as July 21st of this year. This is a movie. It's called They Cloned Tyrone. It's a Netflix original R-rated movie, 2 hours, 12 minutes. Um, I have no idea why they didn't market this movie because this movie is amazing. This is a star-studded cast. It's led by John Boyega and Jamie Foxx, and then forgive
Damn.
me for the pronunciation, Toyona Paris. So those are our three main characters. Yeah, like they did no marketing for this. The only reason I saw it was because it was on the homepage for Netflix, and then me and Alki just sat down and watched it. Just an incredibly written, incredible cast of just a how I like to describe it is think of Black Mirror meets X-Files, and the X-Files piece of it
Mm.
is government conspiracy, and Black Mirror just because the whole sci-fi theme, futuristic technology in a modern world. Incredible. And I'll say it right off the bat, I've only been exposed to John Boyega through his Star Wars movies, which I'm not a big fan of. And
I don't
he
think he's a
is,
big fan of either.
yeah,
He has
he hates them
distanced.
too.
Yeah, he's
Yes.
distanced himself.
His acting performance in this is amazing. And then Jamie Foxx plays a character called Slick Charles. So you know he's like incredible. He's
Yeah.
hilarious too, like the entire way through. Anything Jamie Foxx puts out, I'm always eating it up.
Oh
But
yeah.
anyway, this movie did no marketing, so not a lot of people saw it, but the chemistry is like a driving force of it, and just how these characters play off each other in a world where they're just normal people getting thrown into this huge conspiracy about what the fuck is going on in this town, about people dying and coming back to life, and like what is happening, like who is controlling everything, like people don't know what's going on. But it's both, like I said, incredibly well written and funny. Like the humor in it is really, really good. John was the biggest standout for me because again, I didn't have the biggest, I wouldn't say I didn't have low expectations, but I haven't seen him act. Like I didn't see him get a chance to really put up his best performance. So without like spoiling anything specifically, this is just like a Black Mirror concept about like it's called They Cloned Tyrone. So that should give you a little bit of a spoiler
Mhm.
without me talking about it. But yeah, I totally recommend this to everybody. It's very new and very recent. It's only 2 hours. So you're not sitting down for a 6 season television show. You can just sit back, watch it. The second half is a ride. And again, I'm just gonna rebump. Jamie Foxx is so funny, like laugh out loud, comedy funny. This entire movie, he's great. He's like a pimp, so he's like really, really funny. But yeah,
Love
so I
that guy.
definitely recommend all of Bingetown to watch it. And anybody listening,
What is his name in this?
Slick Charles,
That
which is
reminds
great.
me of wasn't his character in Horrible Bosses named Motherfucker Joe or something?
Yes,
Motherfucker
yes, motherfucking
Jones.
Jones. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and just to add on to it, the Rotten Tomatoes score 94% critics, 100% audience. So it
There
was
you
just
go.
Mm.
universally loved. I don't know why they didn't put some money into it. Like this came across my like Twitter timeline as someone saying like, yo, like you don't need to market things and you don't need to reuse old IP, just how like we're living in the age of just remakes and stuff. You can get away with making creative stories if it's well written and the chemistry for your actors is there. And that's the best way to describe this. And I'm a huge Black Mirror fan, so this just worked really well for me.
Love that. It's weird. They really don't, unless you're Extraction with Chris Hemsworth or something.
Yeah. They
Netflix
don't
doesn't
market. Yeah.
really give you that big bump with their advertising when it just comes to their original movies. I mean, of
Mhm.
course, they give the original TV shows the big advertising budget. I don't know, but yeah, I never even heard of that
I,
movie. Literally,
I don't
never even
blame
heard
you.
of it.
Do not blame me. That's why we're here.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure their algorithm makes them a lot of money, but I feel like they go all in on a lot of things that they should not go all in on at the expense of things that are really good and don't get the attention they deserve. So,
Mhm.
and I have one on my list coming up that falls under that category as well, Luke. It's a shame to see, too.
But that's why we're here. That's the mission.
While
We
we're here,
have
yep.
Oh man, there are so many that are like that. And we will get into this, guys, eventually. For one of our recommendation podcasts, we'll talk about shows that were canceled that are still worth watching. And Netflix, they're one of the biggest culprits. But my first recommendation for you guys here is going to be Apple TV's Severance. This show, for me, Apple TV is kind of still new. It's been around for a while, but it's still new. It hasn't really done the big time advertising. It's starting to. It's really starting to catch fire because of Ted Lasso and Silo recently and Severance and certain shows like that. It's really starting to catch fire. But Severance was a show that came out and I didn't really even know that it was released. Apple TV didn't really have the best advertising for it. We actually had a friend of the pod come on and pitch it to us for one of our Pitch Town shows. But before I get into talking about the show, let me ask the listeners one question. If a medical procedure existed that made you forget your work life as soon as you left the office, while also having you forget your personal life when you go back to work, would you do it? Would you separate your work life and your personal life in a way that essentially makes you two different people? At first, I'm sure many listeners who haven't seen the show are like, hell yeah, that would be sweet. Well, this is the surface level premise of the show, and as the season goes on, it becomes quite the conundrum. This show is a sci fi mystery thriller with one season, 9 episodes. It's a quick and easy binge. Season 2 should be on the way very soon, but there have been some delays due to behind the scenes issues as well as the current strike going on. But still, hopefully, we should have season 2 very soon. The show stars Adam Scott, and let's face it, you know you can't go wrong with Adam Scott. He's our main character, and he has had the procedure to have his life severed. He works for a huge and secretive company named Lumen, and you find out pretty quickly that what's going inside the walls of the office is very sketchy. The atmosphere of the office is creepy as hell, super mysterious. The workers and us never really know what work they're doing, and Lumen goes to major lengths to make sure your work self is totally isolated from your non-work self and life. The show gives you a lot to think about and is so well written. The show essentially turns Adam Scott's character Mark into two separate characters because we do get to see him in both his personal and work setting. The differences in the characters, meaning the two different Marks, will definitely shock you at first and will add to how thought-provoking the show is. This show has a 97% critic score and an 86% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm not really sure where the 11% difference comes from. I think it might just be because the show comes off as a slow burn at first, but it really isn't. It's also very thought provoking, so maybe people don't want to have to think too much during it. I'm not sure, but anyway, 86% is still a pretty damn good score. Luke, I know you love this show, so I want to let you jump in for a second. I do have some more to say, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
A lot of these recommendations are going to come with this lens, but it is essentially a Black Mirror concept that is expanded into a season. It's really well thought out. It's a mind fuck. You get some vibes of Westworld in there, which it's hard to describe without more spoilers, but it's just really well made. And you can just tell like the air of tension and creepiness that's there the entire time through the cinematography is A plus. So you're always on edge, and it seems like a slow burn type of show, but it's really not. And this is going to be a show. I think they have it written for like 4 or 5 seasons is the plan. And I love when a show has like the end game in mind when they start. So definitely
It's
recommend
planned
to
out.
everybody. You don't even have to love the sci-fi genre. This is one of those shows that's so well written it kind of transcends the genres. Definitely recommend to everyone, especially B Toms.
It definitely uses Apple's money. The budget is huge. They
Mm-hmm.
use what they need to make sure they get the best actors, the best cinematography, the best set pieces. Like Luke said, anytime you're in the business scenario and where Adam Scott is severed into his business scenario, it's creepy as hell. It's made like a maze inside of the office that he's in. It just seems like there's something going on, and you're always questioning it the entire time. It's a sci-fi show, but it's also a major mystery show. Smart writing, great acting. When I watched it, it felt like Prestige TV. It really did. Apple TV, to me at the time, was very, very new. I still to this day haven't watched Ted Lasso, which is bad on me. But this is probably the first Apple TV show that I watched. And when I watched it, I felt like, okay, Prestige TV, I'm watching HBO. It's a great show. You guys should check it out. Brian, you should definitely check it out.
Mm-hmm.
It is well on my radar. And to expand on that thought, yeah, I feel like if Netflix is the showrunner that kind of just produces, what am I trying to say here? I feel like the second you watch a Netflix production, you can tell it's a Netflix production in the negative sense. Apple must have seen that and went completely on the opposite side of the road because everything they're putting out just looks beautiful. It's of the best quality. Yeah,
Okay.
applause to Apple.
It does seem like Apple at first, and like I said, they are starting to get better with their advertising, but at first they were they were using the quality of the show to be their own marketing.
Mm.
And you could tell when you watch Severance, this show blew up for absolutely no reason except for the fact that it's great.
Yeah, that'll take us back to me. If you've been following us along with the podcast, you know I am the Star Wars guy out of the seven of us. I just am. So my second recommendation is going to be the show Andor, which I feel like people got turned off just because of the titular character. If you've seen Rogue One, which is pretty unanimously agreed upon to be the best Star Wars piece of content that Disney has put out since they acquired the franchise, and I am in that same boat. If you've seen that, you know the character Cassian Andor, and if you've seen that, you probably raise your eyebrows and are like, why does this guy need his own show? I was also in that boat. I didn't really care to learn more about the character. I thought, they tied a nice bow around it in the movie. But this is a prequel to the events that happened in Rogue One, which itself were the events leading up to A New Hope, essentially, which kickstarted the franchise.
Mhm.
So this show Andor takes place, I believe, 5 years before Rogue One and A New Hope. So at this point in time, Luke hasn't discovered he's a Jedi, et cetera, et cetera. The Rebel Alliance, as kind of weak as it was in Rogue One and A New Hope, it is 5 years before all that stuff. So they are just starting out. The Empire has a stranglehold on the entire galaxy, and they are ruthless. They are large and in charge. Like, they are just, I guess you would say, omnipotent. They're just present everywhere. You can see like every single planet in the galaxy is under Empire rule. People are scared. Like, it's just hostile to live. And we're following this character Andor, who really he's kind of the Han Solo type. He's just scrapping to get by, I guess. He's capable, he's a thief, etc., etc. But it kind of just follows the events that lead to him brushing elbows with people in the Rebel Alliance. And I don't want to give too much away, but it is just fantastic. I mean, this character, the actor's name is Diego Luna. He plays Cassian Andor. It was just gripping. I mean, he does a great job bringing this character to life. It is by the same person who wrote the screenplay for Rogue One, so it is of that quality. Which is phenomenal, and it is probably the most serious subject matter that Star Wars has taken up. I mean, it really shows why people were as scared of the Empire as they were. It goes behind the scenes and shows them being ruthless. It actually kind of shows a couple of the scenes through the lens of the Empire, what that training is like, how it brings up their officers and kind of grooms their officers to be ruthless people. It shows us inside an Empire prison, which is not a place that you want to be. It's also got some elements of a heist shtick too, which was really exciting to get behind. But yeah, kind of my biggest takeaway. If you are a Star Wars fan, I would assume that you've already seen this series, though. If you are not a Star Wars fan, I would highly suggest this as a jumping on point. If you watch this into Rogue One, then probably into A New Hope, I think this is Luke, I feel like you have told me multiple times, like the old movies, the original trilogy, just don't really hold up because they were made in the 70s. The special effects aren't there. The acting is kind of cheesy, but Rogue One does not have that at all. Andor kind of has that same vibe to it. It's just elevated in terms of quality, if you will. The special effects look great. The production just looks great. So I feel like if you are someone who's hesitant to get into the series because you don't want to watch something from the 70s, this is a precursor to all those events. So you could watch this show into Rogue One, which are both just phenomenal pieces of content, and then you can roll right into the series. Andor, I was even surprised to see it is actually currently nominated for Best Drama Series in the Emmys coming up. So, the reviewers agree. It got a 96% on Rotten Tomato, 8.4 on IMDb. I just thought it was great. It really was. It was a unique entry into the Star Wars series, I would say. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, but as you can tell, I did like it as much as I did. It was just phenomenal. Luke, you have not seen it yet. And I know you just went back and crushed all the movies not too long ago.
So I would say I would agree with you that I think Rogue One is the best piece of content that Star Wars ever made. And I know it's a hot take because I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan, but anybody I see talk about this show pretty much reiterated everything you were saying. I have this one guy that pops up on my Twitter, TikTok, whatever, and his favorite piece of modern day Star Wars besides the OG trilogy is Andor. So everything you're saying is pretty much getting reinforced by what I already believed about the show. And if I was to watch a new episode of Star Wars, it would be this, definitely. And like I said, Rogue One was my favorite movie in the Star Wars franchise by far, and I loved this character as well. Wasn't as good as my blind Sam the Force monk, whatever. He was fucking
Yeah.
awesome, but he deserves a spinoff as well. But yeah, Andor is definitely on my list of how I would get back into the Star Wars franchise.
Yeah, I will say, Brian, that I haven't watched it either. I have seen Rogue One and I love it, but just as an example of someone who is a super, super, super casual Star Wars fan, friend of the pod, Tyler, I don't even know if he's watched most of the Star Wars stuff, but he saw
Hmm.
Andor and he freaking loved it as a standalone.
Yeah.
So you can watch it by itself and just enjoy it. It's apparently it's that great of a show. Brian, you already talked about it ad nauseum with how great it is, and I think I'm going to be jumping on that as well.
Yeah, kind of my last point would be a lot of the Star Wars content that's out there really leans heavily on the Skywalker of it all and leans on the Jedi stuff and all that. This kind of
Like
doesn't
world
lean on that
building.
at all. It's all, yeah, it's world building. There's a lot of political intrigue and it's all dealing with humans. Nobody's got any crazy powers. It's just thieves, blasters, and yeah, like I said, political intrigue. It's very interesting. It's unique to the franchise and yeah, I can't recommend it enough.
Love it. All right, I'm gonna go next here.
Yep.
My second recommendation, this is going to be another Netflix original, and it's called Love, Death, and Robots. This is an R-rated animated anthology series. And I'm going to say Black Mirror for the 400th time on this podcast, but this is literally the closest thing to Black
Yeah,
Mirror that exists in the animated form ever. Um, that comes with pros and cons. And the cons being like, so right now there's 3 seasons out. The third season just came out recently, and the season breakout's a little weird. The first season that debuted years ago was 18 episodes. Then the second season came out with 8 episodes, and then this third season that released this year came out with 9 episodes. Season two was received horribly, but season one and season three were received incredibly well. So this just kind of comes with the area of anthology where every episode is so unconnected that some people are going to love and connect to certain episodes. Some people are going to hate those episodes. Every single thing is going to be different. And we deal with a range of topics here, going from aliens to AI to monsters to human introspection to post apocalyptic. There's something for everybody. So don't judge it just by one episode. And an added bonus of this is it's not like Black Mirror where each episode's 40 minutes. We're talking like some are 7 minutes, some are 15 minutes, some are 20 minutes. You can jump in just based on the premise that Netflix gives you and enjoy one, hate another, and then, like you can jump all over the place. Just see what's there for you because it has something for everything. For everybody, and to add a little bit of credibility to this for at least our own podcast community. So we recently did a Netflix draft of Netflix original shows, and other podcaster of Bingetown TV, Paul, he took this show in the first round. Like he was that passionate
he
about it.
did.
So there is some banger of episodes in this show that keep me up at night, right? You'll watch it, you'll dream about it, you'll think about it. It's like Black Mirror. It's mind fucks. A lot of it is just also showcasing the different animation styles because not only are they separate episodes, each animation style is completely different. Some will look like just 2D animation, some will be like 3D CGI. Like it goes across the board, and it really lets the creators of each of the episode flex whatever creative narrative they want to get across. So there's something for everybody. It's hard to sell just like a broad stroke reasoning to watch this because everything is so different in it. But I can promise you, you start watching it, you click around, you read a couple of descriptions, you'll find some for you, and you'll be surprised by how good this show is. Because again, like some of my favorite pieces of content Netflix ever made are some of these 15-minute just one-off episodes of Love, Death, and Robots that I'll never get continuity for, but I can still think about it to this day years later. And yeah, it was received pretty well. 85% critics for Rotten Tomatoes and 80% audience. And I think a lot of that is because it was weighed down by season two, which had maybe one or two watchable episodes that were good, with the rest being bad. But season one, amazing, and season three, I thought it brought it back to the peak of how good I thought season one was. Don't really have anything else to say there, but just again, something for everybody. Give it a try. It's not really investing a lot because some are so short, but yeah, everybody I've seen that has seen enough episodes agrees that there's some gems in there.
Love to hear it. Paul really did surprise me making that his first pick in the draft. But again, that's just a testament to how much he enjoyed this show. And it's another one of those shows that has gone under the radar for a lot of people. And a lot of people who did watch the show, I remember you, Luke, and Paul said, I don't know what's going to happen with season three because season two was so bad. And it got back. Apparently, I haven't watched it
Mhm.
yet, but as you said, Luke, it's back to the prime time and I'm gonna check it out. I definitely want to check it out. There's a lot of Black Mirror that I need to watch too.
Have you seen any, Brian?
I did. I think I watched definitely all of the first season and then
Mhm.
half of the second season. Topher Grace is in one episode randomly,
Mhm.
isn't he?
Michael
Isn't
B.
Anthony
Jordan's
Mackie
in
in one
one.
too?
Anthony
Yeah.
Mack. Yeah, there's a lot of good
Yeah.
actors that they get to play some of the characters, either the voices or they animate. Like there's one episode that is Michael B. Jordan CGI'd as an animation, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
If nothing else, I would just say the animation is beautiful and getting like a completely different animation style from episode to episode. It it's just very aesthetically pleasing. I
Hmm.
think, the animators go all out. So yeah.